Motor keep me bingo at 30 hours.
259, sir, go ahead with your name check information.
If you want to hear. Can I put you on speakerphone for a while? Because there's a bunch of Capitol Police that need to be educated about this policy. So basically, the judges of America are denying the rights of the people to see what they're speaking about. Why wouldn't you want to be filmed? I mean, these are things that impact children and families. Why wouldn't you want to be filmed so we can get the message out to the rest of the country?
There's a group. If they're not, certainly we are available to answer questions after we dismiss this morning. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, my name's Dave Carlin, and I'm with Stop Child Abuse for Profit. Now, you address a lot of reactive situations, but what is the council actually doing for prevention and education so that we can strengthen the families before they even get into the court systems, so that we can avoid a lot of these issues that criminalize the poor?
I'm so delighted that you've asked that question, sir. The council is very instrumental in looking at preventive measures. We're working with Chicago Public Schools, and I'll just talk about Cook County real quickly. And if you don't mind, I'll just address this question as opposed to going through all of our jurisdictions. But in Cook County specifically, we're working with Chicago Public Schools, looking at some of their data and where kids are dropping out and the reasons they're dropping out. And what we're doing is going back to the SIDS in those schools, in those homes, I apologize, working with CPS, working with our DCFS, or our state agency, to make certain that we provide services for that entire family, to support that entire family, to minimize the impact of the abuse that's going on then, but also to minimize the potential abuse, and making certain that we connect our families with community-based programs so that when there's an upheaval in the family, and we are all from families that have great times and low times in our lives, but making certain our families have those community-based services so they can access those services without court intervention in the future. So I'm delighted you answered that question. We are all about prevention. So I'm going to take questions from everybody.
I have one follow-up.
We're going to take one question per person. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Ted Palmer. I'm a father from Montgomery County, Maryland, and I'm here today to talk about human rights violations in Montgomery County under the program.
Let's not talk about specific courts.
Partially under the funding of VAWA, which enforces a protocol for police officers to come in and arrest people. Now, I've talked to people all over the U.S. This is a problem all over the U.S. I now have a neurological problem called legal abuse syndrome. It's the same thing as PTSD, going through the Montgomery County, Maryland court system under Ann Harrington. There was no chance for justice. Several of my attorneys were just interested in plundering my family's assets. My children aren't better off. My children aren't protected. My children were put in harm's way, and there was no relief for me as a father, as a male. There was absolutely no counterbalance to the initiatives of the program.
Okay, now, let me answer your question.
I'm not done yet.
Well, you asked me a question.
No, I'm still telling my story.
Okay, but that's the point. We're short on time, so I'm trying to answer your question, not open the forum for stories. So if you have another question, or do you want me to answer the question you posed?
I'll give you a few examples. Like,
No. What is your question? Because I have one question.
I'm trying. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Your question was why, or what is the council doing about that? And let me explain what the council is doing about that. I think we talked about some of the key principles that the council has enacted through our board and through the practices and the procedures that we put in place, and evidence programs that we're spreading throughout the nation that relies on paternal sides of the family, representing and making certain that our paternal sides of the family are represented in our courtrooms. We provide not only lawyers and help train those lawyers for the fathers as well as mothers, as well as the children and guardians for the children. We also make certain that we do diligent searches for fathers at the beginning of the case so fathers can be involved. Children don't come from one parent. They come from, I'm only taking one question per person, and I'm not done yet, so please be respectful, sir. And so we provide those services not only for mothers, but we also provide them for fathers. We make certain that our services are based on what's needed for the family. So if dad has a substance abuse problem, he goes into treatment programs just like the substance abuse problems that are developed for mothers. One of the problems we have throughout our nation is that we don't have sufficient substance abuse programs for both mothers and fathers. I can't tell you how many times my case is held up in Cook County alone, and I won't even talk to my colleagues and friends here, but in Cook County alone, simply because I don't have beds for my family members who need beds and are in a desperate need for beds so that they can provide and get themselves ready to start learning how to parent their children better. Yes, ma'am. I have one question per person, sir. Please, can you
Can you talk a little bit about the council's work with tribal courts?
Absolutely. One of the things that we have recognized throughout the council and in our court systems is that there's an Indian Child Welfare Act that's a federal law that requires that the court make a determination as to whether or not a child or family member is a member or eligible for membership in a Native American tribe. And once that is established, once that fact is established, there is a multitude of different laws that come into place for that case. And I'll let one of my colleagues join in. I don't want to occupy the whole mic here, but one of the things that becomes very imperative is recognizing that the legal standard for what we call ICWA cases, or the Indian Child Welfare cases, is vastly different than our state law cases. For instance, in ICWA, it requires that the court make a determination that there's a risk of severe abuse before you can go in and take a child, where our state law is not nearly as high as that level. The evidence requirement for judges in ICWA cases is clear and convincing. In our state court cases, it's a preponderance of the evidence. And so there's a great difference in the level of requirement for evidence in the ICWA cases. And so one of the things we're really talking about in the council is making certain that our judges appreciate the cultural differences and why there's an ICWA, but making certain that we really do abide by the federal law on those cases as well.
You know, the domestic abuse there, of course, like everybody in my case has kind of thrown me into this. You know, what is being done to protect the rights of American children and American women?
I'm going to just, you guys jump in when you want, but I'll just tell you about a case I had very recently. One of the issues, our world is getting smaller in a lot of ways. And so a lot of our community members are marrying and having children with people who don't necessarily live next door. And so we have oftentimes situations where there's a difficult family situation and one parent will take a child out of our country. Ultimately, I will tell you, it's a nightmare for a judge. I mean, I got orders from Italy and Italian, and yeah, I should know something since I took Spanish, but I was lost. And so you end up working with the State Department. And I will tell you that the State Department is getting more apt at working on these cases, I think surely because we're getting more of them. But there are no real set policies and procedures, because you have to find if it's a country that's recognized by the U.S. and what our recognition means and kind of what the laws are and who prevails. And so it's really individual to the country.
So what's being done to try and prevent and avoid people fleeing with their children? I mean, if we can avoid that, 70% of the women fleeing.
Cases, the data are clear. The parental support is much cheaper and more effective. Similarly, community-based placements for juveniles who are going awry is so much more effective than institutionalization. So I'd love to hear anything more that you can share about what the council is doing to advance those kind of cost-effective, community-supportive measures. And that's what our initiative is built to do.
I'm going to try to answer your question very succinctly because I'm short on time, but I do want to direct you to the National Council's website. We have a program that I think one of my colleagues spoke about, and that is the Court Catalyzing Change Program. The Council has gone into great depth in looking at prejudices, both institutional, local, on a local level, regional, and implicit biases within ourselves. We made a commitment that we were going to look at ourselves first before we start going out and saying it's the cops, it's the workers, it's the probation officer, it's the whoever. And so we've developed protocol and also judicial work tools in which to help judges on those issues. So we've done a great deal of training, not only in Cook County, LA, Tucson, but around the nation on some of these programs and have developed actually a curriculum to look at racial bias and implicit bias in our court systems with our partners. We've also started bringing in not only the advocates and the lawyers, the workers and the probation officers as well in that endeavor. And I'll be more than happy to give, as a matter of fact, there's a young lady here by the name of Nancy Miller, who is the director of our Permanency Planning Division. And I'm going to have Nancy speak with you after we break up here today, and she can give you direct information on where you can get the work on courts catalyzing change, okay? So Nancy, if you please speak with her. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap up, and I do apologize again for keeping you past our hour. I did try to take as many questions as I could. I do hope, and I apologize up front for only taking one question per person, but there are enough judges here in the audience to help you answer the questions after the briefing this morning. I want to encourage you, working in offices on the Hill, please, if we can help you in any way, please remember that the National Council also has a research arm called the National Center on Juvenile Justice. That center is located in Pittsburgh, but it also does a lot of research. So they do a lot of OJJDP's numbers on juvenile justice, child protection, and violence in families. We are more than willing to come out with technical assistance and bring judicial assistance whenever necessary. If you have judges in your jurisdiction who are interested and you want them to become interested in learning some of these innovative practices that we talked and touched on today, please do get in touch with us and we'll be more than happy to help you in that endeavor. I also want to recognize some of our friends and partners in the audience. We spoke about CASA, Special Court Advocates, who work very closely with the court in helping to allow our children's voice to be heard quickly. All of us judges have a zillion lawyers standing in front of us, and we're all trying to find out what's in the best interest of a child. And I would suggest to you what I tell the new judges in my division in Cook County. If you really need to know what's in the heart and mind of your child without a legal position being put forth, appoint a CASA. CASA gives us an independent, objective opinion about what's going on in the heart and mind of a child. And that doesn't guide your answer, but it certainly gives you an insight into what's best for the child. Once again, on behalf of the entire Council of the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, my colleagues who helped create a picture of what happens in our courtrooms every day, and please give them a hand. I'd like to sincerely thank you for your attention this morning, and we look forward to seeing you the next time we're here on the Hill.
Why wouldn't you want to be filmed? I mean, these are things that impact children and families. Why wouldn't you want to be filmed so we can get the message out to the rest of the country? Why wouldn't you want to be filmed? I mean, these are things that impact children and families. Why wouldn't you want to be filmed so we can get the message out to the rest of the country? Why wouldn't you want to be filmed? I mean, these are things that impact children and families. Why wouldn't you want to be filmed so we can get the message out to the rest of the country?